What's the similarities or the differences with the non-human personhood of the orangutan in Argentina?
Sandra, the orangutan, we, like the rest of the world, were absolutely delighted when in December we learned that a habeas corpus had been issued on behalf of Sandra and she got legal personhood. We became steadily less enthusiastic when we downloaded the decision, we had it translated, and we realized it said nothing about either of those things. And it seemed, and you know, I talked to a Spanish lawyer, Argentinian lawyers. It appears they clearly sought a writ of habeas corpus. They did not get it, then they didn't get it, then that was affirmed, then it was affirmed again, and then at the highest level of the court, they then reversed the case, but not on habeas corpus grounds. They then appeared to treat it as a regular, like animal cruelty case, really. There was dicta in there. They did say kind of some nice things about, oh, they ought to be treated in some certain way. But clearly, Sandra is not a person, did not receive a writ of habeas corpus. So we were very sorry about that.
When you win one of these cases in New York and you show that chimps have personhood, will it set a precedent for all the other cases that you've brought forward and all the chimps will be released?
Well, this is, we try hard to make people understand that when we lose, all is not lost, and when we win, all is not won. It's that this is, you know, a very complex, lengthy struggle, and we are, you know, the first place that we've begun is the state of New York, and it's moving all over the place, and so I think it will be a precedent. Whatever happens in several ways. Exactly what happens, I think, may be cited by other courts, but I think what it's really doing is setting up a statewide, nationwide, and international discussion about the personhood of non-human animals. That's why I'm writing an article for Foreign Affairs. It's in Pravda. I'm on the BBC, and I think that it will catalyze a discussion, and as we and probably other groups will then move from state to state or country to country, you know, we will try to you know, minimize our losses and maximize our wins. But it's, you know, I studied abolitionism, you know, human slavery, and that was an extraordinarily long, you know, brutal fight, which in the United States required 800,000 people to be killed in the Civil War. And I never got to the Somerset case, which in England, which freed slaves by a judicial decision. Which, by the way, the Somerset case is what we rely on. I wrote in a book called Though the Heavens May Fall about the Somerset case in order to show anyone who wanted to read my book not only how James Somerset became a person, a black slave, but how we intend to litigate our cases as well.
Do you see the potential of your strategy for other species of animals? Now that we're finding out the capabilities of species like pigs and cows and grey-faced parrots, do you see the potential for this for other imprisoned animals like those on factory farms?
Well, we certainly see the potential for autonomous animals. Where it's going to go, you know, where it's going to go from there. I mean, I'm enough of a student of legal history to know that I don't know where it's going to go from there. You know, our arguments are basically aimed at really smashing a hole through that wall and catalyzing, you know, a discussion in society at large and within the judiciary and in legislatures as to what's going on, what's personhood about, you know, why do we think we have the right to keep these chimpanzees there? And where that's going to go, I don't know. I'm hoping it goes in rational directions, but it's going to cause, we're hoping it's going to cause, you know, a worldwide argument about it. And as people begin to file suits, seek legislation, and so the answer to your question is a resounding, I don't know, but at least it opens up all kinds of possibilities that are closed as we speak.
If the Somerset case is an example of law leading a paradigm shift, and if I guess if you think that would be a more likely, better approach to liberating non-human animals, or whether the paradigm shift first should then lead law.
Well, I think both things happen. I don't think judges have any intention of getting much ahead of public opinion, nor of lagging much behind public opinion. So I think that they kind of move, but we're just the lawyers. We're like at the end. If judges feel that they're living in a world in which no one gives a damn about chimpanzees, then nothing's going to happen. The only reason that something might happen, we believe, is that the rest of you out there are making it clear that it's something really important to you, and it's an emerging, important value in society. So judges and legislators, are going to have to deal with it. So we are not alone at all. We're just the people who kind of come in and turn public opinion into law, if we're lucky.
My question is unrelated to the animals, but goes back to the notion of slavery. And when I was at school, and anybody in this room would have learned this at some stage or another, we were taught that slavery was abolished in around 1833, a little bit of dispute about the exact time, and in my own mind I thought slavery was abolished. We had a function at our gallery not that long ago, raising funds for an organisation called HAGAR, H-A-G-A-R. And there's a woman in Australia, she lives in Melbourne, who runs this organisation. And there are apparently, and this is factual evidence, we actually had some slaves in the gallery, former slaves that had been rescued. There are 24 million women and children slaves, some young boys as well, who are worth to their masters less than $90. So if they get sick, they just get thrown overboard. So I suppose my question is why, if slavery was abolished, and you said, Steve, that you had some background in this, why is it still existing? I mean, where is the law when it comes to...
Well, I do understand, but if I can put it in this way, murder is illegal, but it happens.
Yeah.
And so, say in the United States, the 13th Amendment to our Constitution says slavery is abolished. That doesn't mean that some humans don't try to treat other humans as slaves, but they are not slaves. There is not a category of slave in the United States. Slavery is illegal everywhere. That does not mean that people are not acting illegally and treating humans or non-humans as slaves, but they're not actually slaves because slavery is illegal. Although if you're murdered, you are actually dead.
Thanks. I was just curious to know what the potential is for the hearing on 26th May as to whether or not it may devolve into a situation where you're considering welfare-based issues.
Which kind? I need a translator. I don't understand Australian.
Whether or not there's any potential for the university to defend the...
Oh, they're going to be there. They're going to be defending through the Attorney General.
On the basis of animal welfare, sort of the normal animal welfare balancing exercise.
That's really interesting. In each of the two appellate arguments we had, at one point, and you can look at the transcript, a judge leans over and says, well, what you're interested in is the welfare of the chimpanzees. And both times I've said, we don't care about the welfare of the chimpanzees. Heck with them. We say, a writ of habeas corpus is not a welfare statute, it's a freedom statute. We care about the freedom of the chimpanzees, not the welfare of the chimpanzees. So no, this is not a welfare case. It's not, it's not welfare litigation. And indeed, we make it clear, and we say it in the public, in the press, and everywhere, that none of the folks who are imprisoning those chimpanzees are violating any state, local, national, anything. We say they are perfectly in compliance with everything, every chimpanzee welfare statute that exists. But what's happening is that they're slaves. They are deprived of their freedom, and that's the purpose of a writ of habeas corpus. And we're coming in to say they ought to be free. We don't care how they're being treated. And tell us they're being treated as nicely as possible. We don't care. It's similar, for example, what in fact I spoke to one of the courts. It's not exactly, but it's close. Within the Nonhuman Rights Project, we call it like the Bill Gates problem, which is that Bill Gates comes in and says, I think I'm going to take your son, and he's going to get a much better life than your crummy little house and your crummy little car and every animal rights lawyer, you rich animal rights lawyers. And I'm going to take him, and he's going to have a lot of things. And then we file a writ of habeas corpus, say, I want my son back. And he comes in and says, from a welfare point of view, you're going to put that boy back in this family when he could be, having his own 100-room mansion? And I'm assuming the court would say, we're not talking about welfare, we're talking about something else. And that's what we say. Our litigation is not about welfare, it's about something else, it's about freedom. Because that's what habeas corpus is about. And there's a problem that is revealed in this, which we understand. When we talk to a court and we say the word animal, in their minds they're going, animal welfare, animal welfare. And we're trying to figure out, we're going through the whole difficult process of thinking animal rights, not animal welfare. Because also, I don't know whether it's in Australia as it is in the United States, but animal welfare is something that's traditionally left to the legislatures. And habeas corpus is something that is not left to the legislatures. And so animal welfare is not what we're involved with. We're involved with animal rights. We're with the fundamental right to bodily liberty that's protected by a common law writ of habeas corpus. And there's an autonomous and self-determining being there who's absolutely entitled to it, just like a human being would.
At one point, you mentioned that there was a lot of media interest in your proceedings. How has it been covered in the US press, and what impact do you think is having on how decisions are being made? Like, how is it being mediated through the press?
I don't know the second answer, but I do know the first answer, because I also, again, think it's a long process. Something happens today, and then there's a tidal wave tomorrow, and no one can remember what happened today, and it's also, again, part of a long, long process. But what I can say is it's not what we were expecting. We were expecting to be ridiculed, frankly. And we were absolutely astonished, both in December 2013 and last week, when all of a sudden we are inundated by media, and overwhelmingly two things are happening. Either they are saying, it's about time, these guys are right, and we saw a CNN panel when we filed in 2013, and what they were saying is, when we heard it, we thought that was the stupidest thing we ever looked at, and then we read. Am I being cut off permanently? And they said, then we read what they said, and they said it made a lot of sense. So we're either getting media who's saying what they're saying makes a lot of sense, or they're simply reporting it as a straight story. And less than 1% of the media that we see are ridiculing us, and it's coming mostly from anti-evolutionist media. What, chimpanzees? They're like completely different than we are, and so. But the people who are not coming from that place, We really haven't seen it, and we're thinking, it's not just our brilliant arguments. They are brilliant, but it's not that. It's that those kinds of those seeds now have something. They're not falling on stones anymore. They're falling on ground that all the other people in the animal protection, the animal rights movement, for decades now, that they have laid the ground. They've laid the field. They plowed the field for us. So when we come in and make these arguments for the first time, it's not on stone, and they're being allowed to at least think of germinating. Thank you.